So what was your processes in looking at, because I know you all went through different processes when you kind of came back from that first meeting. And again, it had to look very individual for your makeup, for your program, what services were available, how many staff, just the whole setup. I mean, you being an individual little cottages is a whole lot different than,
Right.
yeah, the communal, the big communal living kind of thing. So what were your processes in taking that back?
Well, we started just looking at prioritizing, looking at the whole list of rules that we currently had. There were some things that we all kind of went, yeah, I think we can get rid of this. But then there were some really hard conversations. And again, people were coming from a place of, we need this to make things safe for everyone. And so we really had to talk through what can we not live without, because we didn't go into it saying no rules. Our process was, let's minimize the rules we have. Let's look at what do we think we really need. And so I think we decided we were gonna have 10 was kind of our goal. And so if you got to pick, what are your top 10, and then let's talk about it from there.
The good thing for us is that most of the work was initiated by advocates. So we gave that decision-making over to the shelter staff and actually had supervisors. We pulled ourselves out of the process, brought in a staff, a leader from one of our other programs, and had a facilitated discussion, and actually had people move on a Likert scale, so to speak, of going through all of our shelter rules, like the safety concerns, the community living guidelines, and then the suggestions that really were rules, informal rules, and listed them all out. And as a group, they went through each rule, guideline, one by one, and on one side of the room, of our dining room, was get rid of it. I hate it. I hate enforcing it. It makes me feel awful every time I have to talk to a survivor about it. To the other end of the spectrum of, no, we've got to keep this. This is really important for safety and security. To in the middle, I don't care, keep it, get rid of it. It really doesn't matter. And so it was the staff moving from one end of the room to the next, and the majority of those things, I mean, they were able to self-select. Now, of course, there were a couple, 2 or 3 advocates that were like, wait a minute, I've got to keep it, got to keep it. But instead of us being the leadership of the agency having to discuss and negotiate it with, it was the other advocates that had that peer-to-peer talk with them to say, really, let's think about why we have this rule and what might be the unintended consequences, negative consequences for survivors. And so they were able to come to a consensus and were able to get rid of things like curfew and bedtimes, that were an informal rule, and mandated chores, and the things that really have created for many years some pretty significant barriers for survivors.
Yeah. And ours was similar.
Yeah.
We don't have quite the same size of programs, so we don't have the levels of authority and that kind of thing going on. So it was a matter of me sitting down at the table with my advocates and saying, let's take a look at stuff right now anyway, because truth be told, we didn't really have published rules anyway. We really didn't. And if we did, the couple that we did have, people weren't really doing them anyway.
Yeah.
And so for us, it was a matter of, let's take a look at everything that we have in writing and see what it says. And so the overriding concept of everything that we were doing when I first approached the advocates with it is I said, now look, no rules does not apply, no structure. There's very much a structure to our program, and the structure to our program, in my mind, will stay the same, but the way that we're presenting it is what's going to change. And so we took a look at intake paperwork and the shelter handbook and all of those other things that we had in writing and said what language works and what language doesn't. And it was more of a cross that out and change the tone, add this here to explain that a little bit better, and go through it that way. And so it was just that natural progression of what does our paperwork look like now compared to what it looked like then. Then it was punitive and scary, and now it's totally not. I mean, it's the direct opposite of that.